You know, as a Pokemon creator and a fan, my opinions have changed a lot on certain Pokemon. As I was browsing through the decks, I saw certain Pokemon I used to hate, and I started to ask myself, why did I hate these mons again? After a few more minutes of scrolling, I found like 15 Pokemon that I used to hate for just pure silly reasons. If you've watched my channel over the years, you may have a general idea of what certain mons I could potentially be talking about. With that said, I made a list of the top 10 Pokemon I used to hate, but now I feel better about them. I don't think I need to explain any more about the concept of this list, so let's just hop right in. Also, Mist Magius, worst team for red and blue, description, and iCard. Thank you. Starting off at number 10 is a mon that I've never really fully hated, but it annoyed me to just how much it showed up. Thus, I called it overrated. Gen 1's Fire Dragon Charizard has been one of, if not the most popular Pokemon in the franchise. Charizard is literally everywhere. Box arts, the anime, the cards, it's always somewhere. This used to annoy the living crap out of me. But then I realized Charizard isn't going anywhere. I can't lie. When I was a young lad, I would always be stoked whenever Ash would bring Charizard to a battle. Blaine, Falconer, Gary, the Battle Frontier, it was hype. I think just about any Pokemon fan can agree on that. It's just, after a while, it annoyed me so much that I started calling it the overrated Fire Lizard. Charizard is popular for a reason, and fans love the ever-living heck out of it. Its Megas are sick, and Leon's G-Max Zard is incredibly cool looking too. In my opinion, no matter what kind of new form Charizard gets, it somehow manages to look cool. And I think that's what makes Charizard so appealing to fans. The design is simple, and it's just dope. Its forms also perform pretty well on the competitive front as well. So that's an even bigger plus. Okay, this is that one entry on the list I literally think almost everyone can agree with. In fact, to this day, some of you may still hate this Pokemon with a bloody passion. I guess it's not the Pokemon itself, but more so a specific trainer's Pokemon. I think this one is pretty obvious. It's Miltank, or Whitney's Miltank. Whitney's Miltank made me hate Miltank a lot as a kid. Of course, as I got older, Whitney's Miltank became less of a problem, and I started to just not care as much. But as a naive young Pokemon player, you tend to get stomped, attracted, rolled out to death, etc. I raged hard. Almost everyone did though. I mean, I was 7 years old, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to trade for that blasted Machop in the department store. To be honest, I didn't even know fighting types were super effective against normal types. I only knew the basic type advantages. Fire beats grass, electric beats flying, that type of basic knowledge. Miltank was invincible to me, and to someone who did a Typhlosion line solo run from start to finish, getting rolled on was the worst, because I didn't even know how to switch other Pokemon around in my party. This one is more so a funny one, because I think we've all had a shared hatred to Whitney's Miltank, even if brief. Miltank is actually adorable though, and I do really like it. This one I disliked simply because I thought its design was weird and ugly. We got Tangrove. Honestly, its design isn't even bad. I think I was more bitter at the fact that we never got to see the Pokemon that was actually Tangrove, like the actual mon behind the vines. I figured at this point, we will never know what is behind this Pokemon's design, or the vines in this case. Unless there's some new pre-evo, regional variant, or Paradoxmon that comes out and proves this statement wrong. Which, if that's the case, comment down below if this video aged well when it does inevitably come out. On the competitive side though, running Assault Vest is super fun. Now, This entry could technically be a tie for all of the most common wild Pokemon. But there is one that annoyed the ever-living crap out of me as a kid. If you've played Johto and Hoenn, you may have an idea of what I'm talking about. I didn't know what a repel was for a long time in Pokemon, until maybe like the late end of Gen 3. There's a Pokemon that would appear every 2 seconds on the dang water. Hearing that cry so many times would make my blood boil. I remember forgetting the Strength 8 Gem in Olivine City, and I would have to surf all the way back to Olivine and back to Cianwood again. That's my own fault though. The same thing in Hoenn. Surfing in the late game was Tentacle hell. I hated it. I didn't even hate the Tentacruel line's design choice. It was just the prospect of it appearing every 2 seconds and having to see it pop up repetitively. Honestly, the same can also be said about a mon like Zubat, but Tentacle annoyed me much more. You know, I was one of those Pokemon fans that used to absolutely despise most of Gen 5's designs. Oh, Pokemon's running out of ideas. Gears, ice cream cones, now literal garbage? The designs suck. I said stuff like this. Garbodor is one of those Pokemon I mentioned. The fact it was based on literal trash is why I hated it. What about Gen 1 though, man? Muck is a literal toxic pile of waste. Gen 1 has designs like this too. If anything, Garbodor is actually a genius design, being based on city pollution. It's created by a bunch of trash being piled together. When I looked past the design, and more so on what the design is trying to convey, I admire it a lot more. It's very clever. If you leave trash, this Evo line will appear. The same also applies if you have trash takes. So, do yourself a favor. Don't litter. And please pick up your trash. This is the only Pokemon on the list that, 1, is from Scarlet and Violet, and 2, is the most recent one I changed my mind about. I hated the Dunsparce when it came out. I wanted a Dunsparce evolution so bad. I had a dope design commissioned and everything. However, we did get an evolution, but it wasn't what I initially expected. Legit, the first time I saw the Dunsparce, my reaction was just, what? All it got was another 2 or 3 segments added to it. I was massively disappointed, and thus I started hating it. After a while though, I realized Dunsparce is a meme Pokemon anyway. And Game Freak definitely demonstrated this joke further by giving this thing little to no changes to its original design. It's honestly pretty funny to look at the Dunsparce. It's a walking meme, and now I love it. Don't get me wrong, I still would have loved a more epic design in terms of it getting wings or something. But as a dirt Pokemon, I've just learned to appreciate it. Another case of Gen 5's inanimate object Pokemon stupid rant opinion. Yeah, like Garbodor, I despised Vanillux. An ice cream cone is a stupid design, blah blah. Yet, I love Pokemon like Slurpuff. You see the logic in that? Vanillux is another one of those instances where I had to look past the design and appreciated why it was made to begin with. Its inspiration, according to its artist, James Turner, takes inspiration from American food mascots, like the Pillsbury Doughboy or the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. Also with the Castelia Cone and Long Island ice cream, I can see the similarities there as well. It's honestly just hating the Pokemon because it's based on an inanimate object. It's such a dumb way of thinking. We now enter the top 3. And if you've been following me for a while, you know in the past, I've badmouthed these Pokemon quite a bit. Up at number 3 is Incineroar. I was salty because I wanted a tiger Pokemon on all fours. To me, Incineroar was just another firefighting type, just with the dark type label attached to it. I was sick of the bipedal fire starters. After a few more years though, my opinions on it started to change. One of the things that did it was Ash's Torterra evolving into it. That was epic, and to this day, Ash's Incineroar is still one of my favorites. Seeing it in Smash also changed my perspective on it. I really like Incineroar's playstyle. Seeing it in Smash helped me realize this Tony was a luchador tiger, and it played that role pretty damn well. Being bipedal was actually a blessing, not a detriment. It's a natural Smash character, and I owe Smash for helping me see this. At the penultimate spot is another set of bipedal fire types, being Pignite and Embor. The reason I disliked these was more or less for the same reasons as I disliked Incineroar. Bipedal fire type that should have been on all fours. It was meant to look like an angry boar. Not this. My opinion changed for it when I played Pokemon Black 2 again a while back and I used it as my starter. I forgot just how well it performed in Unova, and it helped me create a bond with it. This is one of those times where I judged a Pokemon on its design too fast before I used it more often. Something I always forget too is that Embor can actually be ran as a mixed attacker. That's another one of the reasons why I enjoyed using it. Who cares if it's slow? It has the bulk to take hits and the offensive power to dish them out no matter which way you want to do it. Its shiny form just adds icing to the cake. Its shiny is clean. I think we all know what's coming in at number 1. I mentioned this mon before on my top 10 best looking Pokemon video, but I had to bring up Torterra again. I used to hate Torterra so much. I would joke about throwing it in the trash can, talk about why its design is bad, it's slow, etc. I also can't lie. It was my first starter for Diamond and Pearl, and I ditched it for Infernape, because I hated the living heck out of Grottle's design and eventually grew to dislike Torterra as well. Well, why'd you hate it? Well, I just didn't know cool Pokemon when I saw one. It's a walking continent that shreds if played correctly. Wild Pokemon make their home on Torterra's back, and that's super cool. I also have a confession to make. It's one of the best designed starter Pokemon there is, and I would actually rank it in my top 3 favorite grass types next to Meowscarada and Venusaur. I had blind hate for nothing, and I never truly appreciated just how cool this land turtle looked and how much fun it really was to use on a playthrough. I recently used it on a Brilliant Diamond run, and I love the fact that it gets Earthquake so early. Torterra is incredibly amazing. Truly. Well, those were 10 Pokemon I used to hate, but I've changed my mind on. I'm sure the top 3 were more or less pretty obvious, but nonetheless, I enjoyed talking about them in a positive light. I got asked though, are there any Pokemon you guys used to dislike, but now have changed your minds on? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments below.